Hey barbecue family, Kenyatta here. Welcome back to my Backyard SmokeMaster barbecue channel. Those of you who follow me on social media may have seen one of my recent posts where I showed the arrival of my newest grill, the Weber Summit Kamado E6 charcoal grill. So today's video, I won't be cooking anything, but instead I just wanted to talk about the new Summit Kamado, and for comparison purposes I have it right next to the Weber kettle. And the Weber kettle is probably, the most iconic and I'm guessing the best selling charcoal grill that's ever been made. So I want to show a few comparisons of how the kettle compares to the Summit Kamado. And in the short time since the Summit Kamado was announced and have started to show up in people's backyards, I've noticed on social media that there have been a couple of controversies related to this grill. One of them has to do with the stand that the Kamado sits on, and then the other has to do with whether or not quality control has been lessened with release of the Summit Kamado, because basically this is version 2.0 of the original Summit charcoal grill that came out a few years ago. Actually, the original Weber Summit charcoal grill was released back in 2016, and I have had my eye on it since it was first announced. However, at that time, I was really trying to save my pennies so that I could acquire a good, well-made stick burner, which is my Lone Star Grill's 20x42. But that being said, I still wanted the Weber Charcoal Summit, but the price was a little bit too high for me. I just couldn't sustain that price. And my hope had always been that maybe Weber would either, do some type of a redesign or somehow come down on the price some. When you'd hear people talk about the Summit charcoal grill, it was often being compared to the ceramic Kamado smokers that were really popular and still are popular on the market. I'm talking about like the Big Green Egg and the Kamado Joe. And the Weber version, I believe, was still priced considerably higher, or at least a couple of $100 higher, I think, than the Big Green Egg, and even more expensive than the Kamado Joe. So I think the conventional wisdom was that maybe Weber would eventually lower the price, and the rumors about a 2.0 version of the Summit charcoal grill finally seemed to really pick up heat this year. And finally, they did come out with the revised version. Now, initially, my thoughts were when version 2.0 came out, I was thinking that I might get the version that comes with a cart attached, kind of like the Weber Performer grills. But unfortunately, at least in my eyes, when the Summit Kamado E6 was finally announced, the price for the Grill Center version is still about $700 more than the non-cart version that I ended up going with. And I just didn't think that the $700 price difference was worth it. So I scaled back my own expectations or desires, and I decided to go with the standard Weber Summit Kamado grill, which was priced at $999. So that was much more palatable for me. So basically, a few days before Thanksgiving, I finally saw the Summit Kamado listed for sale at Weber.com, so I went ahead and placed my order. Now, I probably waited, when you factor in Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday, I think it probably took about 2 weeks for me to actually receive it. During that time, some other folks who already had it in their possession were basically making some noise on social media, mostly about the quality of the revised cart. Or I should call it a stand. So the stand that the Summit Kamado sits in is not the same as the stand that came out with the original. The original stand actually had more metal support around the triangular frame. So there's like a black metal piece that goes all the way around the outline of this frame on the original. Now before I move on, let me show you a picture here of the original charcoal Summit grill and the cart that it sits on. And you can see that black metal that's on top of the triangular frame that provides more support. And then also the wheels in the back on the original are more like I don't even know how to describe it, but they're larger, and they're more like the kind of the traditional wheel that you might see on the standard kettle, like what I'm showing in the background there. Not quite exactly the same, but kind of that same plastic material and a little bit larger. Whereas these wheels on the back are considerably smaller. And I think the overall thought, or what people have been saying, is that once you put the cart together, the stand together, that there's considerable, it's much more wobbly. So much so that some people were saying that they felt very uncomfortable about having their brand new $1,000 grill sitting in a stand that just seems cheaply and poorly made. And I guess the insinuation is that the stand is now more like what you find on the kettle version. You know, see, it has the same triangular shape, except the kettle only has the two wheels in the back, no wheel in the front. Okay, so I want to give you guys my own impression about whether or not this stand is too wobbly. All right, let me do that again. Now here are my thoughts about it. So honestly, guys, I don't see this as a problem. I mean, I'm never gonna go over to my Weber. You know, it's a large grill, so I'm not gonna just fling it open. And just knowing from my own experience with the Kamado Joe, you know, when you open the lid, you want to burp it open, right? Because you don't want to get the blowback, you know, burn off all the hairs off of your arm. So, you know, I'm not going to fling this lid open. I mean, I'm pretty much going to open it exactly the way that I demonstrated. Here, I'll do it again. So, I mean, there's a little bit of shake, a little bit of wobbly happening here. But again, I'm not seeing this as being a major issue. Now, what I will say, though, is while I was putting this together, you know, I was already cognizant that the stand was a potential issue. So I tried to be very meticulous when I put it together. Weber utilizes the Built app, to provide like a illustrated illustrations of, step by step of how to put this grill together. So I was following that very closely, and I did get the sense. I'm not gonna lie. As I was putting it together, because it's actually the first thing that the instructions have you do is put the stand together. My thoughts while I was putting it together is that, yeah, this stand is probably going to be more flimsy than I think. It just does not feel solid while you're putting it together. And because of that, again, I wanted to make sure that I was being very careful. And I think what's happening to a lot of people out there, because it's not the easy, I wouldn't consider it super easy to put it together, especially if you do it by yourself like I did. I do recommend you get somebody to help you. But, if you misalign something slightly or don't fasten one of the connectors all the way, I can see how the end result is that you're going to end up with a stand that is indeed wobbly when you open and close it. So this is just my, opinion, is I think if you have not nailed putting together the stand correctly, I think you're going to end up with those wobble issues. But from my perspective, what I'm seeing, I don't see this as being the big issue that folks are talking about. Now, overall, I've been very pleased, kind of getting to the quality control issue, and I'll talk about this more. Once I got it all put together, verified that the stand is not, too wobbly for me, my initial thought is I'm very pleased with how all of this turned out. I think it's a considerable step up when compared to the original kettle or the regular kettle. The only thing that, I kind of have a concern about, and it's not even a major concern, and it may just be because I didn't do it right. It has to do with the tool hooks, which is actually this piece right here. So there's a hook on both sides, and I can't really figure out how to get this to not move around and shake as much. It's just kind of rattling whenever you are moving the grill around, and it's a little irritating. So I don't know, maybe that's, something I didn't put in right. I can't get it to, sit there and be solid. So this would be the only item here that I would say is, a little bit subpar. But this is an extremely minor quibble detail. Okay, so I want to do like a walk around and compare the Summit Kamado to the standard kettle, because really for me, this is a significant upgrade. So right off the top, the big difference is obviously size, and I don't have all of the specs. I don't have this stuff memorized. I'm just giving you an eyeball perspective. I can say that the kettle is 22 inches, has a 22-inch grill grate, and the Summit Kamado is 24. Now that may not sound like a lot when you're talking about the overall diameter, but it really does make a difference. Before I show you the grates, another difference right off of the top is the Summit Kamado has a hinged lid. So when you open it, you got a hinge back there, and that'll hold your lid in place. No hinge. Next, you can see the grill grates. And I should mention that I do have a smoke and sear in this kettle. I haven't even cooked on this kettle yet. But yeah, there's a smoke and sear over here. So that's not going to come standard with the kettle. So just keep that in mind as we kind of go through the inside guts of the grill. So again, here we're talking about 22 inch, 24. It doesn't sound like a lot, may not even look like a lot when you set this one on top of the larger grate, but you know, just eyeballing it, I feel like I can get a lot more food happening on the Summit Kamado. Now, another thing I should point out is I actually upgraded the grate on the standard kettle. I can't remember what it's called, but I also bought it from the folks that make the smoke and sear. I forget what that grate is called, but it's a hinged grate. It makes it easier to access the smoke and sear, your fuel and whatnot. So that's not going to come standard with the kettle. I needed to mention that too. I didn't want to confuse anyone. But the Summit Kamado does come with a hinged grate. So you see here, both sides open up, give you access to your fuel. If you need to add wood chips, wood chunks. So that's a nice touch. And also, it's also compatible with Weber's gourmet cooking system, I think is what they call it. Basically, I first saw this on the Weber Master Touch that I also have, where this centerpiece here lifts up. So Weber has a lot of accessories that you can pick up, like a wok, for example, that you sit here over your coals, give you extreme high heat. So this is a nice touch. Basically, the Summit Kamado is designed basically to take advantage, you know, of all the innovations that Weber has come up with through the years. So back to the quality issue, and I know this isn't the original grill grate that came with the original kettle. Let's see if I can give you guys a comparison. So you can see the thickness in the grate, you know, considerably smaller with this one, and I think this is probably about the same as the grate that originally came with my kettle grill, but you know, these are considerably larger, thicker. So when you pick up this grill grate on the Summit Kamado, I mean, there's considerable heft. You know, this thing is solid, well built. You don't get the feel that somehow, you know, they've lowered the quality. Now, I do believe there has been a change in the diffuser plate that comes with the new Kamado. And I don't have experience with the original Summit charcoal grill. I want to say that the diffuser plate in that grill is hinged. Not sure. This one is not hinged. But I don't feel like I'm going to have any issue with this. I mean, again, this is a piece of metal that has some heft to it. Again, I don't feel like, you know, that they've cheapened out on this. Likewise, the piece here that the diffuser sits on top of, I don't know exactly what Weber is calling it. Again, also thick, heavy, well made. Charcoal grate. Also, I mean, the grate is even thicker has more heft than the grill grate, so it's built to withstand high heat. This is even heavier. So again, I see no evidence of Weber cutting corners when it comes to the guts of what's inside, what comes with the Kamado Summit. And consistent with traditional Weber kettles, they've got their ash clean out system that works really well. Now I will say, when I'm using it, now this is where I do feel some wobble, maybe just because it's so tight right now and I haven't used it, but there's some wobble there, but again, not enough to make me think that this whole thing is going to come crashing down on me. All right, and before I move on, here's a look at the charcoal grate that comes with my standard kettle. What's interesting is that it's actually larger in terms of the diameter. It's larger, but it's not as heavy. And the rods in the grate are not as thick. I'll try and give you a look. So the one on top is the Kamado. The one on bottom is the standard kettle. Another common question was whether or not the new Kamado comes with a port for you to attach a fan, or maybe run some probes through, and it does. It's right here. Hopefully you can see that. So this cover will come off. So there it is, guys. That's a side-by-side comparison. The new Summit Kamado next to the standard Weber kettle. All right, one thing I forgot to show is that the Kamado does also come with 2 of the charcoal baskets. There's a better view. I just haven't unpacked them yet. All right, guys, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. Hopefully you found it helpful. You know, those of you, if you were like me, who've been looking at the Weber charcoal Summit grill and were just a little bit scared off by the price, I do think, you know, the $9.99 is like a sweet spot, you know, when you're really starting to talk about well-made grills that are, you know, dual functional. You know, you can smoke on these, you can grill on these. I think this is the price range that will make the Kamado, the Weber Kamado, be much more competitive when you're talking about comparing it to the Big Green Egg or the Kamado Joe. And I think all of those are great smokers. So I think this will be right in line. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Weber can do. So hopefully if the weather holds up, I'll get a chance to come back out here, do my burn in, and then I'll start cooking on it. So look for more videos with the Weber Kamado. Also look for me in live streams. I am going to be doing some live streaming. That'll give us more opportunities to talk about the Weber Kamado, as well as, you know, any other topics related to barbecue that you guys are interested in. I always appreciate the support, the comments. It's really what's carried the channel, so do appreciate that. If you haven't already subscribed and you like what you see here, please consider doing so. Hit the like button. This is Kenyatta Robinson. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. I'll see you in the next one.